Train 262 Heavy, wind calm, runway 31 left, clear for takeoff, caution wake turbulence, previous departure, Heavy 777.
Welcome aboard our chase, Vought F4U Corsair. Oh wow, look at the wing. You can even see the riveting on the wing. Wow, riveting being kind of, yeah. All right, we are in Connecticut. We're at Bradley International Airport. Why? Because the F4U Corsair is the official aircraft of Connecticut. Things I know. Start her up. Ooh, look at that nice blowback there. Nice. This is actually a very nice looking model. Ah. Sweet looking aircraft. Alright, let's close our cockpit. Closing the cockpit. Closed, sir. Excellent. We have flaps. We do have moderate flaps. We should have about 60 degrees of flaps. In order to make it as a carrier landing aircraft, she had to have a slow enough speed. Because remember, they didn't have slanted decks. They had straight decks. You definitely wanted to hit or you were going to crash into your mates. Her approach would include 60 degrees of flap. Amazing, huh? Of course, the U.S. Marine Corps used these aircraft extensively. We're going to talk about why here in just a minute. I'm just looking at what is... There we go. There is 60 degrees of flaps, ladies and gentlemen. 60 degrees of flap. Wow. Let's get that up and out of the way. I have noticed something else that I'll touch on right now. Let me get my mouse. See right here? See how the cowl flap is not up? There's a reason for that. I'll talk about why in just a moment. I just want to point that out when I talk about it. And in reality, they'd probably have more than just that down. Okay. Inside our plane. Let's see if I can get my freaking view centered. That's centered enough. All right. Let's pop brakes off and give her a go. Wind up our Pratt & Whitney R2800-8 double wasp radial engine with 2,000 horsepower. We are in the that fast. And here comes those gears going up and rotating back in the look that was the Corsair style. One of the first Navy aircraft to actually have wheels completely enclosed in the well. Yeah, she looks pretty, doesn't she? Let me dispel a myth. There is a common myth that this aircraft was called Whistling Death by the Japanese. There's actually no recorded accounts of that. I actually started researching it because I'd always heard that, and then I heard from other sources that that wasn't true. And I started digging. I don't know what the heck that was. And it, sure enough, as far as I could find, there were no recorded accounts of it being called Whistling Death. Just a little bit of information. Designed as a carrier fighter, it was initially relegated to land duty due to various teething issues with this aircraft. It had a 11-to-1 kill ratio by the time it was all said and done. Take out 11 enemy aircraft for every one lost. Quite the impressive little bit of performance. Oh, look, there's an aircraft over there. We're just going to orbit around Bradley International. Bradley? Brady? Whatever. Hartfield, Connecticut. Production. This was the longest running production of a propeller-driven aircraft, like not even turbopropped. Production started in 1942. Final delivery to the French Navy, 1953. Aircraft served World War II, Korea, France's Indochina War, which was the U.S. Vietnam War, is what it ended up being. This aircraft mounted the largest engine available at the time. That big double wasp radial engine. That was 18 cylinders, by the way. The F4U1 ran that. They did try another one which had an even larger engine, but Found it a little bit too much. Now, to fold the wings, which is kind of a requirement for the carrier, they needed to retract the landing gear rearwards, because you can't really fold your wings if it also is your landing gear bay. It causes issues. Now, because of the chord of the wing, they couldn't make struts long enough to clear the prop because it ran one of the largest props out there. Chord of the wing is the distance from the front, from the leading edge to the trailing edge. They couldn't make the struts long enough, so they came up with what is the Corsair marquee, the bent wing design. Pushes the struts down so that they could reach the ground with that big old prop on there. Also let them put the intercoolers for the superchargers into the wings right near the engine. Now, the downside of this is that wing structure that fixed the gear problem added weights to the aircraft, so it was sort of a trade-off. Now, amongst the problems that this aircraft had was visibility. Pilots sat way back in this aircraft. Visibility on carrier landings meant that it was very challenging for many pilots to make a proper landing in this aircraft. That was one problem. The other problem was rebound. The initial aircraft, the struts would cause the aircraft to rebound on landing, and the last thing you really want when you're trying to put down on a carrier is to be bouncing down the deck. And that is what happened. They put some bleed-off valves into the struts, and that eventually fixed the problem. But initially, the Navy refused the aircraft. They gave it to the Marines. The Marines said, yes, please, we want to get rid of our Wildcats, which are crappy. And once they learned the strengths of the Corsair, it became one of the most feared aircraft by the Japanese because it was so capable. Now, while the P-47 also ran the big double wasp engine, the P-47 reached its best speed up in the 30,000 foot range with its big turbo supercharged engines. This aircraft reached its maximum speed, which is only 14 miles an hour slower than the P-47, which was one of the fastest single-engine fighters out there. This aircraft reached that speed down in the low ranges with a big mechanically driven turbo supercharger. In fact, this aircraft set the speed record for single-engine aircraft that was held for the longest time, running upwards of the speed of the P-38 Lightning, that twin-engine P-38. Let's give her a little bit of gas there. Now, there were a few other teething problems with this aircraft. At slow speeds, the starboard wing would stall. That's usually not a good idea. You don't want your right wing, which is your starboard wing, to stall at low speeds, especially when you're trying to make a carrier landing at low speed. The other problem is when you got into a situation where you need to dump a whole lot of power, like an aborted landing, it would actually cause the port wing to stall. And they had incidences of the aircraft completely flipping itself upside down because of the stall situation. They solved this by adding some stall strips to the aircraft. So that allowed the aircraft to stall in unison. So each wing stalled together, so you didn't have an issue where the aircraft would just flip itself over. This is also the last aircraft in the U.S. Navy fleet to feature fabric-covered surfaces. Yes, we think of this aircraft as one of the top-performing aircraft, an amazing aircraft, and it is, but it had fabric wing on the outboard, and it had fabric control surfaces. Additionally, the structure of the elevator was plywood. Even though they did a lot of welded frame, or welded aluminum, they still ran a lot of fabric in this aircraft. Initially, this aircraft was going to have two 30mm guns on the wings and one set of 50s on the cowl. That turned out to be not so great. Yeah, go ahead and put our gears out here. And it was found after spending some time in Europe that was not going to work. And so they went with what is today the known Corsair punch with the 650 calibers. Now, this aircraft also exceeded expectations as a ground attack aircraft. In the Korean War, it could carry 2,000 pounds of bombs, 4 5-inch rockets, and it became a very strong down in the dirt mud runner. It would get down in the dirt and drop the bombs and help out during the Korean War. Now, what do we think of this model? Well, let's hit our button. Shift 1. Okay. Doesn't do anything. Shift 2. Oh, there's a... Okay, 3. Okay, 4. Okay, 5. Right, there's throttle. Okay, 6. There's our comm panel. 7, there's that. 8. 9, there's GPS. I was wondering where that was. Do I have any sort of air brakes? I don't have air brakes. Of course I wouldn't have air brakes. Okay. Now we're just going to kind of put this down. Nice thing is, because it's a big radial engine, if I feel like I'm getting into trouble here, I just give her a boot full of power, and away we go into the skies. All right, there we go. Nice and easy. See if I can put her down nice and sweet. Nice-ish. A little bit of bounce. Brakes. I don't want to brake too much because, of course, I'm a tail dragger. I hit my brakes too hard and I'm going to nose stand the aircraft. All right. Come on, baby. Slow. Stop. Now, of course, this aircraft was made famous by the Black Sheep Squadron. If you're like me, you probably watched some of that on TV. Some of you, maybe. Okay, maybe not many of you. All right, I'm going to turn up the engine. I'm going to rev it up, but I'm going to turn up the volume here, so hold on a minute. Ready? It's got a nice engine note. Now, I talked briefly about the cowl flaps here. One of the issues I found when doing landings was when the cowl flaps were in this open position like this, they would actually jet oil back onto the windscreen, and then the pilots couldn't see. So to solve that, they actually initially just fastened the top cowl flaps down, and later they replaced that with a solid unit so that you wouldn't get the blowback of oil off of these big engines. Top speed of this aircraft, the F4U1, was 417, 438 for the F4U4, which had a slightly larger engine. I think it had the 2800-18 instead of the -8 engine on it. I think it had 2300 horsepower instead of 2000. Either way, this is a really nice mod for Flight Simulator X. Really nice plane. Definitely worth you checking out if you need to add an aircraft into your library. Look at the engine in there. You can see the big double wasp in there. Ah, beautiful aircraft. I've actually helped one taxi in before, so they are very, very nice planes. All right, and you know what? I would actually say that you could probably take this. You know, there's the air race that you can do, the Mission Flight Simulator X Accelerated. I'd put this up against a P-51 any day, because I'm willing to put my money on the Corsair. When flown properly, could put that P-51 out. There you go. The link is down below as always. I've been DerTebbers. This has been Flight Simulator X Spotlight of the F4U Corsair. Till next time, happy flying.
United 351 North Alpha Approach, good evening. Depart the Woodside VOR heading 060, vector visual approach runway 28 left.
Okay, on the Woodside 060 for 28 left, United 351.